morning, everybody. Almost good afternoon. Hopefully that song brought a little bit of that South of France Cannes vibe on this gray day here in Toronto. I think it is a little too early for us to dip into the rosé, but we're going to talk about Cannes. We're going to talk about marketing today. My name is Marcin. I'm the head of trade marketing here at the Globe, and we have Ryan and Mike here with us today from MLSE. Really excited to chat with them. I first met you guys last year, so you guys were competing in the Young Lions competition that the Globe puts on. For those who are unaware, Young Lions competition is for people under 30 in the creative and marketing industries. They have to respond to a brief. The winners get sent to Cannes, France to compete on the global stage at the Cannes Lion International Festival of Creativity. And these guys won gold in Canada for the marketers, and they went on to win gold globally for the marketers last year in Cannes as well. So this is Canada's first ever global gold in that category. So I'm thrilled to be chatting with you guys today. I want to hear what it was like competing on the stage at Cannes. It is definitely a breeding ground for creative minds, creative leaders. So I want to hear what that experience was like, how you guys scored Canada's first ever gold in the marketers category. And I really want to dive into your approach, your strategy, your tactics, how you came up with two big ideas that won. So before we dive in, I want to hear a little bit about yourselves, who you are, and what you do.
Awesome, yeah. Thanks, Marcin. Really appreciate the Globe for having us out today. It's been an awesome day, so really excited to be here to close it off. My name is Ryan. I work at MLSE in the Digital Labs group, so I really sit in between marketing, technology, and partnerships. And my primary job is to come up with innovative solutions digitally that help our advertisers move their initiative forward.
Awesome. I'll echo Ryan. Just appreciate the Globe having us here to share a bit of our experience. My name is Mike. I work at MLSE on our global partnerships and marketing team. My role is a strategy manager, and I'm focused on creating partnership campaigns between our partners of all of our professional sports teams. So that's TFC, the Argos, Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Raptors. I'm really rooting for the Leafs going into the playoffs. I know the Raptors had a bit of a tough time, but I'm happy to see one of our teams going into the playoffs. And excited to be here today to share a bit of our experience in the Young Lions program.
Awesome stuff. Okay, so let's dive into your Young Lions journey. So in Canada, we had over 340 teams participate last year across the country. 24 hours, you killed one big idea. Then you went off to France, global competition, 36 countries were represented, 24 hours and another killer idea. So I want to hear about the global competition. What was it like competing in Cannes with just 24 hours, and what was that experience like for you guys?
Yeah, so I'll maybe kick that off just to say we were extremely grateful to be able to go down to France as a part of this competition. And this is really, we were able to do this because the Globe supports the program each year and sends young marketers down. So getting down to the festival was a really proud moment for us, and I think we were just blown away by the scale of the industry and felt really proud to be a part of something that big. Our mindset going into it was how do we get inspired going into competition days. So we had about 2 days before doing a 24-hour case down there in France, and we went to a variety of speakers events. We spent a lot of time in what we'd call sort of the Hall of Fame, which was industry award-winning work over the past couple of years on one-page templates and case studies, and we spent a lot of time just reading those case studies to get inspired. And I think that's a theme you're going to hear throughout this was how do you get inspired, think outside of the box using what's been winning awards across the industry, and that inspired a lot of what we did on competition day. But Ryan will talk a little bit more about the structure of the days itself and how we actually tackled the case.
Yeah, so once you get there, there's 5 Young Lions categories, and you're put in a beautiful canopy in the south of France, and you get an introduction to what the briefs are going to be. So the first step is the briefing process, where you're introduced to the charitable organization you're going to partner with. You have to use an idea that uses your brand as well as that charitable organization. Then you have 48 hours to actually come up with your idea, create a 5-slide deck that explains how you're going to go to market to it, and then you have the final presentation where you pitch your idea to 5 marketing leaders from across the world. And then the last day is awards day. We were fortunate enough to actually win the competition where you receive your award alongside some of the actual Cannes Lions. So it was just a huge honor for us to be up on that stage with the Creative Marketer of the Year and a lot of amazing brands who did great work that year. And I think Mike and I always joke, like, we both were athletes growing up. We thought, oh, maybe we'll represent Canada in the Olympics one day. And bodies maybe didn't quite allow for that, but we were able to do that in the marketing side. So that was a proud moment for us.
Awesome. Okay, and so tell me about the brief. What was the ask?
So the brief globally was an organization called New Zero World, and their goal essentially is to take all the different climate narratives that are out there. I think right now it's really doom and gloom around climate change, right? It's like we can't really do anything. What can we actually do to make stuff better? So their goal was to create a positive narrative and share education and resources and really aggregate all the information into one spot so marketers could use that with their brands and with their campaigns to really use that to make it a little bit better on the global stage. So the goal of the competition was really use one of your brands, so Leafs, Raptors, TFC, and this organization to come up with a big idea that would solve climate change. So easy one there. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, and you guys won gold, so obviously you had a really good idea. So what was that idea coming out of your 24 hours that you had?
Yeah, so I think we might pull up a bit of a snapshot of our idea here that we tackled in 24 hours. Like Ryan said, a bit of a tough ask. How do you get people inspired on climate change in 24 hours and make a global impact? We created this idea and this campaign around the concept called Earth United. And our tagline was to get people to score for the planet, to use the power of sport to inspire people to take action and create more of a collective identity that people around the world could rally behind to show they're a part of one big team. And I'll describe a little bit about how this works later, but it was really focused on one core insight, which was as we went through our exploration, we said, what's the biggest barrier stopping you from taking action on climate change? And it was through research as well, but personal anecdotes was, I don't feel that when I act alone on climate change, I'm necessarily moving the needle, and I don't necessarily see my neighbors doing things, so it doesn't feel like maybe sometimes I should do anything at all. And we said, how can we overcome that barrier? And the way that we did that was by introducing this concept, and we found a unique brand connection between our organization, which is actually built around creating sports teams, united sports teams, and New Zero World, which was trying to unite activists together into one team to create an entirely new team. And that was a concept that we pitched. Rather than leaning into one of our brands in Canada, we didn't know that a global audience would necessarily resonate with the Leafs or the Raptors, so we decided to create a new brand in this concept. And the idea was we wanted to have people sign a social contract publicly that they were going to sign with this team, and as a result, they would take a certain amount of actions on climate change throughout the year and make a public statement to their network that they were doing so. And we'd also create sort of a digital arena globally that people could participate in these challenges and see themselves on a leaderboard and how they're contributing to the team. So this is a hypothetical concept, obviously, but we were able to present it, and this was our award-winning concept, and we now have presented it to other leaders to see how they can inspire similar thinking across their initiatives moving forward.
That's awesome. And I know that since you guys won gold twice, you kind of formalized your process of how you came up with this big idea. So we have it here. I want one of you guys to walk us through this because I think it's pretty dialed in, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a messy process the first time around, but then we learned some things going into the global competition and tried to create a framework to dive into these ideas. And we've shared this through various talks after we did the competition. I think it's a good way to tackle sprints in brainstorms and getting to big ideas quickly. It's not necessarily how do you build a campaign that's going to live on for multiple years, but how do you come to the crux of an idea really quickly? The first step for us was understanding and simplifying the brief, and Ryan can give some context around how we did this and how we approached it.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the people in this room, when you're briefed to create a concept, you might have a 25-page booklet, right? That has all the brand information in it, all the goals and the objectives they're looking to achieve. That's exactly what happened to us when we were in Con. And we said, okay, this is great, but we're going to be IDing against this for 24 hours. How do we distill all that information into one tight sentence so that throughout the competition, when we're figuring out, is this a good, is this a bad idea, we could always come back to it and say, are we actually answering the concept that the brief has provided us? That was really key, I think, to our ideation process.
Yeah, so that was our guiding star, not to get lost and have something to go back to. The second part was, I think, not unique to this idea, but all campaigns is how do you have a really tight insight? For us, we set a bit of a criteria as to what a good insight would be. Does it pull on the heartstrings of the potential audience? Does it inspire big thinking? Is it an unconventional way of looking at something to spark discussion? And then we use that insight to jump off of. And then the last piece was defining the common goals and objectives of the organization. So we're lucky that we come from MLSE, which is a partnerships-based organization. So we're very used to trying to define, if you look at like a Venn diagram, the common goals and values between two organizations. That's where we had landed that idea of building united teams was the values and the goals of both the companies we were working with, and acted as a jumping off point. And I think the key here is that is then when we felt comfortable to really ideate and get to rich ideas. We think a pitfall in our first round, and hearing a lot of the other competitors, was as soon as you get the brief, you read it really quickly and you start throwing ideas at the wall. And those ideas aren't necessarily super valuable because they're not based on a framework before. So we created a bit of a sandbox with these first 3 steps before we ideated, and we found that led to really rich ideas, and is something we're hopefully going to use in projects moving forward.
That's awesome. I'm curious if you tapped into any resources or thought leaders, articles to help you come up with this process.
Yeah, I mentioned being at MLSE. We're lucky to get a lot of training on partnership-based campaigns, and we use that lens, but we also lean into external resources. My team specifically loves Julian Cole, who's a strategist online, shares a ton of videos around developing insights, writing creative briefs, really breaking it down from a marketing strategy standpoint to teach people new to the industry. So I learned a lot from him, and our team does, and then looking at case studies, again, throughout the week and even in our day-to-day to keep ourselves inspired.
Yeah, I love Julian Cole. So he's on TikTok. He has a great YouTube channel. I really recommend everyone here to follow him and look him up. He has some great resources, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm curious about competing in Canada and Cannes on the global stage. What were the kind of key differences that you took, and how did you pivot your strategies for the 2 different competitions?
Yeah, it was definitely a huge difference in Canada versus globally. Just when you're in Canada, you can kind of rely on the fact that people know the Raptors, they know the Leafs, they have that brand awareness and how fans are so passionate about those teams, how they fit into the overall ecosystem. So our first idea was actually around pitching a new Raptors jersey. And then we got down to Cannes, and we realized very quickly that no one has any idea who the Leafs are here. And it doesn't matter if we come up with the best jersey ever. I'm not sure that someone in South Africa is all of a sudden going to become a Raptors fan because of the idea that we've pitched. So we pivoted our strategy to talking about MLSE as a brand and how we own and operate 5 sports teams, and how Earth United as a concept could really make sense in our ecosystem, because it's like adding one more brand to that portfolio, and it really gave us that scalable idea that people could digest on the global stage. So the pivot was really all about just global, national, et cetera.
And I think maybe I'll jump in there. It's not that there wasn't any Leafs fans down there. We definitely had some passion, but I think we tried to take the lens of let's be conservative and not just assume that people know this brand and love this brand. We need the idea to work a little harder on its own without leaning on the brand equity that we have. And I think it's relevant to anybody doing international expansion is make sure you know your audience, and do they actually know your brand already, or do you have a lot of education to do in the space?
Yeah, awesome. We heard that today a couple of times, so it's a consistent theme. Okay, so going to Cannes, it is definitely like a pressure cooker of a situation, 24 hours. Do you have any tips for us on how you worked through those kind of high pressure, tight timelines?
Yeah, it's a learning experience for sure. We didn't get any sleep both days, so I would probably advise getting some sleep, as we might have been able to be a bit sharper in our presentation, but it worked out. That being said, I think we learned a couple things, and one was to break up the 24 hours into bite-sized pieces and set milestones. It's easy to look at 24 hours and be really daunting, and then all of a sudden you're at hour 20 and nothing's been done. But I think we set milestones to say we want to kind of complete this framework within the first 5 hours. We want to start putting pen to paper after 10 hours. We want to be building out our presentation, hopefully not into the morning, and give ourselves enough time to rehearse and present. And when we set those key timelines out, it motivated us to get to those timelines, but also made the whole 24 hours not seem so daunting. And I think that was a key to success.
Yeah, and I think on my side, just keeping your idea simple but scalable is really important. One of our mentors before we went down there said, if you can't explain your idea in one sentence, it's probably not a good idea. And that it doesn't always seem like the simplest ideas would be the most scalable, right? We get so caught up in what's the next greatest thing, the best thing we can do. But I felt like both of our presentations had a strong one-sentence pitch, which really resonated with the judges. So I think that's something just to keep in mind in all of your marketing campaigns. Like, do I care about this? And does it land in one sentence?
Yeah, the old saying, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Sure.
Okay, so when we were chatting earlier this week, this concept of healthy debate came up. So healthy debate and collaboration on choosing this idea. So I'm curious about that, if you guys can expand on that.
Yeah, so we're up here. We're still friends today, but there was definitely a few moments in the 24-hour competitions that I thought our relationship might not recover. But it is a really important concept, and I think if you want to be on a high-performing team in a workplace, you have to be comfortable with giving each other honest feedback, and you have to leave your ego at the door, because I think one of the keys to our partnership is we have very different skill sets, but we're also able to be really honest with each other and kill bad ideas quickly and tell each other, pitch me that concept again, make it a little better. And that was what I felt like really took us to the next level on the global stage.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that. I think that tension, the friction, we like to think caused sparks, which ended up creating this big idea. But it's also important to note that even healthy conflict, which we felt we balanced pretty well, is not easy conflict. We were still frustrated with each other, but that frustration was really key to like holding each other accountable to, is this a great idea? Are we being the best that we can be? And we had a bit of a process near the end of our idea where we'd say, hey, pitch it to me in 30 seconds and sell me on the idea. And if he didn't feel it was good enough, he'd say it's not there yet. And I do the same thing to him. And I think if we can create partnerships like that in business and create teams that can be honest with each other, it'll lead to better outcomes.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so shifting gears a bit from the tactical, I know that winning this competition has definitely opened up a lot of doors for you. I saw that you guys both spoke at Dubai UN COP28, and I've seen on LinkedIn other conferences and talks that you've been invited to speak at. So I'm curious if you can talk to us a little bit about those experiences.
Yeah, it's been a really good journey. It's been about a year since we were in the competition. They're now going to announce next year's winners in a couple of weeks, or I guess next week. So it's been a great year. We've had a handful of these speaking opportunities. I think it's hopefully refined our speaking skills. You guys can be the judges of that, but it's been helpful for us to get the experience of sharing the journey. We were able to go down to COP28, which is the Coming of Parties, the global environmental conference, as a result of this competition, because the charity that we worked with was a non-for-profit, environmental-focused organization. And we spoke down there about our idea, and when we went down there, we were a little bit worried because we're not environmentalists, we're not experts in this space, but what the charity wanted us to do was share how we could get people excited about environmental topics by using the power of sport and partnerships and really smart marketing ideas to get people excited. We know that sometimes environmental action isn't the most exciting topic for some groups, and we came with our idea to say, this is how we think this team-based mentality can inspire people to take action and hopefully could spark ideas for leaders that were at the conference. And for us, it was a great opportunity to just go learn about this space and brought back some knowledge to our organization and are hopefully going to be leaders moving forward with MLSE and when we take on those initiatives. So it's been a really incredible year. That was definitely a highlight for us, and excited to go back to France as sort of our prize from winning the competition, to go back to the conference this year and really enjoy it.
Cool. And so speaking of marketing ideas and knowledge that you brought back, can you share a bit about how MLSE stays on top of kind of the innovative new trends in the industry, and really how you guys continue to drive value for MLSE?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think when you think about sports marketing traditionally, you think about it as what's going on in the venue, right? What's the signage? What activations are you doing during the game? But realistically, 99% of your fan base is actually never going to step foot in your venue. So on my side of the business, it's thinking about how can we create digital solutions that meet our fans where they are, whether that be broadcast or developing internal new products, that way give our partnerships team more ammo, kind of more assets to take to their advertisers and be the most innovative group you can be. So meeting those fans where they're watching the game is really how we try to stay innovative.
And I think that was actually a key to the success in our global campaign, was not making, this team wasn't a sports team, it was a collective identity, a jersey that you could wear, but it was also a digital community that you could become a part of. And I think that we took inspiration from the work that Ryan does. The last thing I'll say is we spent some time sitting in a room looking at the case studies and the award-winning work, not in our competition, but across the industry coming out of the Festival of Creativity. And I think sitting down with your group and watching these sizzle videos of what won is a great way to stay inspired, and we did that, and I think it's already reflecting in the campaigns we're bringing to partners and activating with our brands.
Cool, awesome. Okay, so I think we have time for one more question. You mentioned that you're heading to Cannes again this year. As gold winners from last year, you get a free pass. So going to the festival as a attendee this year versus a competitor, I'm curious what your approach is and what you're most looking forward to.
Yeah, for me specifically, there is a portion of CAN called Sport Beach, where you get kind of almost unfiltered access to high-level athletes. I think this year Sue Bird and Carmelo are two of the big names, and I'm honestly just curious one-to-one to talk to Sue and see some of the initiatives she's ran around how to scale up women's sports, see what the impact of this year's NCAA tournament has had in the industry and what she thinks it means from a brand perspective for women's sports as a whole and how it can grow moving forward.
I'd echo that. I'm excited for Sport Beach, but also generally to go down and get some more sleep in throughout the week, to be able to really soak up the various events. The Festival of Creativity is an amazing conference, and we got to go to probably about 30% of the activities that we wanted to, because we were competing for around 3 days. So now we get to go and really get inspired and soak things up, and just looking forward to enjoying the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So in closing, maybe one more thing. I know there's a lot of young professionals here today. Any advice for anybody who wants to make a mark globally or nationally? And that's kind of our last question.
Yeah, I can go.
Yeah, you want to go first? Yeah.
I think one thing is just putting your hand up for these opportunities. We did this on a bit of a whim and didn't really know what to expect, and it turned out to be this incredible opportunity. So I think external case competitions, conferences, events like this are obviously incredible to put your hand up for, but I think more importantly, for leaders in the room that work on marketing teams, highly suggest advising individuals in your team to consider entering the Young Lions competition. It's a really great platform. I think we're trying to continue growing this and being advocates for the program, and I think it's a great one to provide opportunity for new talent.
Yeah, and I think on my end, getting out of your comfort zone is really important. I'm not necessarily a content marketer every day, but when Mike asked if I wanted to do this competition together, I put my hand up and was really excited to be a part of it. You know, he's a brilliant creative, and you need someone who's coming up with all the ideas in these competitions. But it's also important to put yourself out there for things that maybe are not part of your day-to-day and expand your skill set. And I honestly can't even explain how much better I've gotten as a marketer as a result of this competition in the last year. So just really grateful for the opportunity. And yeah, if you have marketers on your team and you're a leader, really encourage them to be part of the Young Lions program next year, because it's been transformational for the two of us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.